Hey, this is Don Walters coming to you from The Clinical Trials Guru. Again, that website is www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Hey, I want to talk to you on a couple issues here. Number one is why Dan and I do this blog. Number two is the question is, what is research or clinical study, or sometimes referred to as a clinical trial or even clinical protocol? It's all the same thing, so we'll talk about that. So I just want to hit on those two subjects. Getting to the first one, why Dan and I do this blog. Number one, Dan and I, basically, as we always put it, we're here to demystify what clinical trials is all about and give it to you in plain truth. And what that basically means is to give you the ins and outs of what goes on with clinical research, to let you know the positives and the negatives, which are both, because neither one's good or bad the way I look at it. It is what it is. I personally believe that we need to have this because we need to have new discoveries, and we need to improve on the things that are going on with this new medications and new ways of taking care of our bodies. It's necessary, and taking care of our minds, of course. These are the things that help improve the quality of life. It's not here to said to improve the longevity of life, but improve the quality of life, and that's what we're after, is pursuit of quality of life. Anyway, with that said, again, that's my thoughts, and that's where Dan and I are coming from with doing this blog. We felt the need for it because we saw a lot of people that were asking the questions and wanting to know what clinical trials are all about before they decided if it's something they wanted to participate in, and they weren't getting that response. They were either getting something that was really too technical and completely over their head, or they were getting routed to some clinical study group trying to recruit them into a study. So they really never got their answer. What they really got was just, caught up in some sort of marketing program. Anyway, with that said, let's move on to the second part. What is a clinical trials, or what is a clinical study or a clinical protocol? And it's basically, it means a scientific study of how medicine or treatment works in people. Now, if you want to look at this through this whole thing, especially dealing with medicine stuff, doctors can find better ways of providing treatment for people that might have the illnesses that they're trying to control. And again, I said most medicines are here to bring about some sort of quality of life, and that's the way I look at it. That's sort of the short version of it. Clinical trials, the way I see it, it's is necessary. Again, well, what takes place? I won't say get into the necessariness of it. What clinical trials is to me, it's the collection of information. It's a complete collection of information to gain some sort of outcome, and you're hoping that the outcome that you get would determine that this particular medication or treatment is good for this particular indication or illness. And that's pretty much, in my mind, is what clinical trials is all about. For those who don't know, it's broken up into what we call 4 different phases. Especially, I'm not talking about when it's done in the petri dish or animal testing. I'm looking at human testing, and that's where most of my experience has been. It's involved with human testing, and in human testing, at that point, stuff is broken into 4 different phases. And you have phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Phase 1, a lot of times, is done with what we call healthy, normal people who may not have the illness for the indication of that medication. And it's usually they're looking for what's referred to as safety and efficacy. And basically, is to make sure that medication is a safe medication and that it provides the effects that they're looking for. Phase 2, again, they're still looking at safety and efficacy, but by this time, it's typically done, or generally done, with people who might have that illness that medication can help. And that's usually done in a small group of people. It may be done with, 30, 50 people around the country, around the world, just to see how it's working. And then when you move to phase 3, you move into a larger body of people, and that may have that indication that may have that illness that the indication that medication can provide treatment for. Then you're testing on a larger group of people, and that can be done completely here in the United States, or it can be done not just here in the United States, but outside the United States as well. With that, they collect all that data, they look at that data and analyze it. If it looks like the outcome is good, then you can go into the FDA and the Federal Drug and Administration and say, hey, look, this is the outcome of the study, this medication. It looks good. Can we go to market? And they would look at it, and if it looks good, they'll say yes. You got our stamp of approval, and then they move it on to the market. Now, phase 4, most of the time, and in general, that's usually medication is done after market. For instance, medication is already out there. Let's say it's a medication out there for high blood pressure, but they want to test it on some other indications or for some other illnesses. So then they'll get the approval to go back to the drawing board with that medication and test it for different illnesses. Just like you want to look at Rogaine. I believe Rogaine, minoxidil was originally tested as a hypertensive medication, but then it went back to the drawing board. They found that, hey, this medication grows hair. So then they had to go back and start testing on people to grow hair. So that's considered an aftermarket study, and you typically at phase 4. That's just one example, and it's just kind of giving it to you as a simplified example. I don't want to get into try to make this thing technical, because that's not what we want to do. But anyway, you have phase 1 where they're testing for safety and efficacy in healthy, normal people. Phase 2 where they're testing still for safety and efficacy and people with the that might have the illness for that indication of that medication. And then you have phase 3, which is usually where they're testing in a larger group of people that may have that illness. And then, of course, phase 4 is aftermarket testing. That's in general. And so hopefully that kind of gives you enough information to determine if this is something that you want to get involved with. At least you're going in with some information to know where you're going if you're going into a phase 1 study or a phase 2 study. Those are questions you need to ask. And once you get an answer on that, if they tell you you're going into a phase study, you know exactly what's going on. If you're going into a phase 1 study, or if you're going into a phase 3 or 4, you at least have an idea of what's going on, and you can ask more questions to find out a little bit more where they're positioned with this medication that they're testing. I hope that information helps you. And again, and just want to again clarify and give you an understanding of why Dan and I do this blog. This is Don Walters signing off from The Clinical Trials Guru. Again, that website is www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thank you.